Really what I'm trying to accomplish on page 1 is just to get the homeowner to relax. Because again, if the homeowner relaxes, you can do your job. If the homeowner is very defensive and very suspicious of what's going on, they're going to tend to be very closed down. They're not going to want to answer your questions. My job is to create a dynamic and an environment that I can do my job and have open, honest dialogue with my customers. I remember just last week I was out in California working with a client, and one of the sales guys called me and says, "Hey, I'm having a real difficult time. Can you let me do a ride along with one of the more experienced sales guys?" I said, "Well, I'll go one better than that. Let's you and I run the lead together, but I'll run the lead and you just watch me do it," right? Because I wanted him to see me run the process, step by step by step. So we go out on the lead, and it's a very small house in, a very working class neighborhood in Sacramento. And we go in the house. This young guy answers the door, and the customer, the homeowner, was his father. So he took us into the kitchen, and we walk around the corner, and we walk in the kitchen, and it's like stifling hot, right? I mean, they got the wall heater wasn't working, which is why the service tech had originally been out there, but the stove was going. He had these 2 little space heaters in there, very small kitchen, not much bigger than the area I'm sitting in right now, and it was stifling hot. In addition to that, I couldn't help but notice right away that the guy was wearing an oxygen tube. And if you've ever been around somebody wearing an oxygen tube, in this particular case, it's hooked up to this big machine. And if you've ever been in an IC unit or an ICU unit in a hospital, or somebody who's having that trouble, those things can be very intimidating, right? It's like boom, shh, boom, shh, right? This really just a freaky noise because when you hear that noise and somebody's on oxygen, they're typically a health problem, serious health problem at stake. So I noticed this situation. So right away, I asked the guy, what's going on with the oxygen? He says, "Well, I've got this very serious lung thing going on. They can't find out what it is, and it's making him sicker and sicker and sicker, and they really don't know what to do." And as he began to talk, he said, "Well, the reason that the kitchen is so hot is that when cold air hits my lungs, it's like drinking gasoline that's on fire. It hurts so bad," right? And he says, "So now we're in this situation where the heater's not working," and he wanted to talk about doing central air instead of that wall heater and have air conditioning for his wife, not in the room he's in, but in other rooms, and for his kids. But it was a very stressful situation because he felt like the big guns were coming in, right? He's sitting there at the table on oxygen, and we come in, and he's afraid he's going to get sold. And so I said, I got to tell you, Jesse. His name was Jesse. I said, "I got to tell you, Jesse, I'm sure you're feeling a lot of stress right now. You got some serious medical problems going on. You got no heat in the house, and you need heat, right, for your lungs. And here's what I want you to know. I know this is a super important decision for you and your family because it's your job to make sure you make the right decision. And I want you to know, whether you go with me, whether you go with another company or do nothing at all, when I leave here today, you're going to have all the information that you need to make an informed buying decision. That's my commitment to you. Does that sound fair enough?" And he kind of sits back, relaxes, and says, "Yeah, as long as you understand, I may not go with you." I said, "Absolutely, I understand that," right? Now, 2.5 hours later, I walked out with a deal for $21,000. But the point is that I had to get the guy relaxed. I recognized his situation of being nervous. He was pretty vulnerable, right? He's very sick. He's on oxygen. He's got to have heat, right? At the very least, he had to replace the wall heater, which would have probably been $2,000 or $3,000, right? But he really wanted central heat and central air. And so, it's about recognizing, and the thing I do like about this question, by the way, that we first got, is that you're recognizing that the homeowners can be suspicious. They can be anxious. They can be nervous Nellies because they don't know what to expect. You're the expert, right? It's kind of like you go to the doctor and you're getting some tests done and you're waiting for the results, and it can be pretty nerve-wracking, right? Because, the doctor's the expert, right? So you got to recognize what people are dealing with. In this situation, some of it was very obvious, right? He was on the respirator or the oxygen. He was very sick. He felt kind of trapped a little bit because he had to do something for the heat. And so my job was to recognize that, empathize with him, and take the pressure off. And it worked out to be a great deal. And in fact, it was kind of funny because once we closed the deal, I had the salesman doing the financial paperwork, and I went ahead and left and went back to the office. And the guy told the other salesman after I left, he says, "Man, I didn't even want to say no to that guy." And Ian said, "What do you mean you want to say no to him?" He goes, "Man, he just cared so much. He was like, he comes in here," I was wearing all black. He comes in here wearing all black and like he owns the place, but I could tell he really cared about me and my family." And so it was a really good illustration for that salesman that recognizing those types of things and having those types of conversations can really disarm people and can make you way more successful. Work the system, I guarantee it'll be successful.